at the grassroots level kind of fight began to go on, and many people took their memberships over to the Gun Owners of America instead of the NRA. The upshot of the whole thing was that the NRA did not endorse in the race at all. They just stayed out of the race. And after the race was over, I've seen now that they've re-endorsed Terry Reid. So it's a problem. It's a problem within those places that we know are our allies, but because of internal policies, they have restricted themselves in such a way that they can't really help when it comes to constitutional conservatism. And it's unfortunate that those things happen. One last question, because I know I'm getting to the end of my time.
Well, I'm Eric Fast from Cochise County. They're concerned about things, and so I'm trying to get into veterans in a little bit. I have two questions. First off is, are you planning on running again? And if not, would you reconsider run again and get that out? And the second question has to do, I know you've got this convention going on and such, but I think I have a real question about actually getting grassroots people out, searching out people and vetting them who would be good people to run, honest and they're wise and decent people, good people to run. I'm doing that now. How could you do that in the next 5 years?
I understand your question. I'm not sure if everybody else heard it. First question was, am I going to run again? The answer is probably. And that leads into your second question is, how do we get good candidates to run? And how do we vet those candidates? How do we know that they're good so that we can support them? That's probably why I'm going to run for something. And the reason is because we need people that we've already vetted that are willing and that have the courage to step up and do it again and again and again. You know, they want to say that if you lose a race, oh, well, you're done for in politics. No, you're not. Remember Abraham Lincoln. Remember, he lost several races and still came back. Remember Ronald Reagan. He also lost. We tend to want to blame the loser and kick him and say, well, it's all your fault you lost that election, and not realize that there are huge things that happen, especially when you challenge incumbency. Like I said, going in, they have a 90% return rate. They also start out about 15%, 15 points up before you even put your names on the ballot. They have that kind of advantage. When you go to vetting someone, it's nice to have a record. And that's why I encourage you to get in on the local level. Start in a school board or a county commission or something and get your feet wet there. It's politics, but it's not nearly as brutal as a state legislative race or a congressional race, and it gets you kind of prepared for it, but it also lets people know. It builds a base. It lets them know who you are as a person. Will you stand and be that lonely no vote, or did they convince you that you should go along with the crowd? And that's how you vet them. Look at their record. So I always, when I'm vetting someone, I always look to see if I can find a place where they have been challenged and stood up and did the right thing. Unfortunately for us, our new movement, our grassroots Tea Party movement, is so young that many of these people haven't been elected to anything, so we don't have any record, and we just have to take their word for it. And that's why it's not such a great thing to put them into an office where they're clear out of their depth. But many of them have rose to the challenge and have been good at doing this. I'm thinking of Rand Paul. I can't think of anything that he ran for before, and he's doing a stellar job. So it's not the acid test that you have a record, but you should be able to look at that person and qualify him. Lots of times just using a questionnaire. And I like the Republican platform. Do you agree or disagree? On a scale, where do you stand on all the things that are in our platform? That will give you a real good feeling about this person, if they're truly a Republican or if they're a Democrat infiltrator. So there are ways that you can kind of vet. You need to have personal interviews. See how sincere this person is. Will they just give you the answer that you want, or will they actually stand on their own values? So there's a lot to vetting candidates. We're going to be talking about that again in our boot camp. I'm always willing to come and speak. Some people say, oh, what does it take to get you here? Go to SharonAble.com, click connect with me. That goes into my personal email. Ask me. If you'll, I have to introduce my friend Kit Judd. His wife was the one that contacted me, and she said, what does it take? I said, find me a nice place to stay, like with your mother or with you, you know. Feed me. I eat anything. I'm not allergic to anything, and I'm not picky, and I like home cooking, and I especially like being with the locals. I like to go local and then just buy my air ticket. So I'm always willing to come. I want to help you get your candidates vetted. I want to help you build strong, viable groups that are really making an impact for freedom. Thank you so much for asking me to come talk to you. I will be in the back again signing my books if you'd like a copy. I think I told you this, and people laugh when I say I take gold, but all of you know that junk gold is really actually worth more than our currency now, so I'm dead serious about that. And I really appreciate you being so warm and welcoming and letting me talk to you so long. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
It is our privilege. It is definitely our privilege. And I hope everybody will pick up one of those books if you are able to. And Brianna, if you could come forward and chat with our treasurer while I'm giving this brief, if you've got a minute, I'd appreciate it. Secretary Kathy Dolge has informed me that we do have a quorum. The chair would like a motion to approve the last meeting's minutes. Is there such a motion?
I so move.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. There is a motion and a second to approve the last minute's meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, for the strategy brief, this is going to be really brief. I did go to the Council for National Policy meeting yesterday in Tucson. We heard from Mr. DeMint briefly, and there was another woman, I think she was the past president of that organization, named Becky Norton Dunlop, and she talked about how women were 53 to 54% of the electorate, but the Democrats carried unmarried women by 69%. She said a negative ad can go over if it has a soft tone. So if you're going to do something negative, make sure you do a soft tone with that. This is a biggie. Economic illiteracy is one of the strongest indicators of voting preference. You have to know the facts about Obamacare. Okay, and then you know how men take heat for not taking directions and so on. This is what she said about the good point for us about so-called fence-sitter women. They're kind of moderates or something like that. Women are more likely to change their minds. Okay. And for the record, I'd also like to point out that we have Mr. Lemon is not with us today. I have access to the creator of these lovely name tags, and that is the end of my comments for today. I was hoping to have more in terms of strategy, and I did work on it a little bit, but I didn't have time to put something together, but I will definitely be doing that prior to our next meeting and meeting with the executive committee to develop our strategy. Back in the back, you see I brought my giant calendar. And for those of you who think that we have 2 years to go, We don't have 2 years to go. We have about 20 and a half months. So if you're so inclined, I would urge everybody to create such a calendar as I have back there in the corner. It gives the psychological effect of compressing time. When you look at that, it doesn't seem like you have quite 2 years anymore. You really get an accurate viewpoint of what you're looking at. And that's all I have. Mr. First Vice Chairman, would you please brief us on the current resolution that we're going to talk about here later?
Certainly. How about that? On?
Sounds like, I think so.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for getting here perhaps a little bit later than I intended. Mr. Chairman, you made a remark about, I guess it was...
Closer to the mic, Sean.
essentially what I was going to say was my wife said to me before I left, Sean, your briefing's right here, don't forget it. It's fine on the front door. So it's kind of an impromptu, if you will, about our LD-14 resolution. But to give you a little history, sitting on the executive committee in the county, the GOP, we came up with a resolution very similar. In fact, that was the predecessor, if you will, to LD-14's resolution. Took a lot of time. A lot of people worked on this. Paul Diggins was instrumental in putting this document together, and I think it's a very good representation of the way we feel, certainly in the Republican Party in the year 2014. Okay. It won't take long, and I think I actually feel it's appropriate for me to read this.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is the resolution of the Republican Legislative District 14 in opposition to the governor's expansion of Medicaid, AHCCCS, in support of Obamacare. Whereas the voters of Arizona clearly expressed their will to reject implementation of the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare, when they voted to amend the Arizona Constitution via Proposition 106 in 2010. The state of Arizona cannot afford to be saddled with the cost of implementing this federal program, and the people of Arizona do not support Obamacare. Assisting in the implementation of Obamacare or subsidizing the federal government's implementation of Obamacare with state funds. Whereas the assessment on hospitals is in reality just a tax, and worse yet, a hidden tax that will ultimately be passed on to all hospital patients and higher costs. The tax increase requires supermajority approval in the legislature, and labeling it as an assessment is a disingenuous attempt to skirt that requirement. Whereas no government entitlement program has ever effectively been scaled back or eliminated, or held within its initial cost projections. The long-term involving costs of Obamacare and Medicaid expansion will surely bankrupt Arizona, just as surely as Obamacare will bankrupt the United States of America. Whereas the U.S. Supreme Court explicitly ruled that each state is free to reject implementation of Obamacare Medicaid expansion and insurance exchanges. These two programs are the cornerstones of the Affordable Care Act. Without implementation of these programs, Obamacare collapses as a practical functioning program. The federal government is incapable of implementing these programs by 2014 or even 2016 without the local organization, legwork, and financial subsidies of the states, by the states. Thus, the fastest and most efficient means to end Obamacare is simply for each state to refuse to do the federal government's job for them and allow them to fail. Whereas Governor Brewer touts Obamacare as the conservative model for Medicaid and encourages the U.S. to expand the program to show the other states how to do it right. We believe there is no such thing as a conservative model for expanding socialism. Supporting the big government takeover of our healthcare system, even for a short-term gift of federal funds, does not reflect the values of the Republican Party or the interests of the taxpayers of Arizona. Therefore, as resolved, we, the committee of the Republican Legislative District LD-14, affirm declare our opposition to the governor's plan to expand Medicaid in support of Obamacare. Folks, that's what we came up with, again, from the original document from the executive committee. I feel very strongly about the verbiage in here. There may be some who have got different views on some of the verbiage, and I certainly welcome interpretation of those. But folks, this is a tax. Please don't be fooled by anyone. Expansion of the Medicaid program is not something that we need in this country. Socialism is something that we've been 180 degrees away from. We came to this United States, we formed the great country we have, so that we could be free to do the types of things we have, to pick the insurance company, to work where you want, to have the freedoms that we have. And this is but one, perhaps the very beginning of many other things that will come down upon us, tax or otherwise. Certainly, I feel very strongly about it. I believe the board feels strongly about it, and I hope that all of you feel strongly about this. This will send a message on top of, or in addition to, what is being sent by every other legislative district in the state. And they're very similar to ours, folks. Their strength in numbers, along with this, I encourage you to send a message to our legislators. Let them know that you are adamantly opposed to Obamacare, to the expansion of this Medicaid. Because believe me, folks, it is the first thing that's going to happen. Many, many others will follow. I unfortunately don't have a lot. And I apologize. I have, as I said, I have that brief. Sitting home does a lot of good. But if there is something, if folks would like to have an explanation of some of the terms that you're stating, I think we'd be willing to take those questions at this point.
Actually, if I could interrupt, we have discussion on the resolution in point number 11B. If we could postpone it till then, we could get the, if that's, unless there's objections, that's when we have scheduled the discussion of the resolution. Point 11B. Is there any objection to continuing with the Vice Chairman's brief? Okay, then we'll continue with the Vice Chairman's brief. Mr. Collins, do you have anything else for us?
I do not.
Okay. Vice Chairman Dolly, would you please brief the membership?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Get a mic. Hey, here you go.
Can you all hear me okay? No?
Turn it on, Mike.
There you go.
Okay, what I wanted to brief you all on today was, my first and foremost brief was on our votes. Since that did not happen the way it should have, I'd like to encourage you all to go to our Facebook page, the LD-14 Facebook page, and I will have videos of our votes up there for you to review. I'd also like to start using the Facebook page for more communication with the other counties. Pima County seems to be pretty active, but Cochise and Graham and Greeley are not. Please feel free to use that to your heart's content. It's open there for your comment. We have some pretty lively discussions on the Pima County page, and I hope we can have the same on the LD-14 page. I will also post up all of Sharon Engel's videos that she gave us today on the, I forgot the title, but the one she gave us today, that will be up there, as well as a link to her website for the corruption. After that, I think it's a good point, and I'd like to bring this to your all attention, is that Cochise County has an excellent little handout here with a lot of things to include the principles of the Republican Party on the back. I think it'd be nice if we had this for LD-14, so that if we hand it out, or even in our own counties, that it will promote the Republican Party as it should. So that would be one recommendation I have. Also, I would like to do a survey, just like Sharon brought up, who are those who support the principles? And I do have electronic surveys available to us that we can use at our own whim and desire. So that's my brief for today. If you all like to participate. Okay, let me show you this too, because there is confusion as to what is our Facebook page. Yeah, unfortunately, LD-14 in Maricopa still has theirs up, but ours is titled Arizona's LD-14 Republicans. okay? And if you want, if you send me an email at delt@msn.com, just del@msn.com, I'll be happy to send you a link to the Facebook page. And then, as my final brief, I'd like to start training maybe an hour after one of these meetings on Facebook, Twitter, the social media stuff. And hopefully we'll also get into our votes and some other things. I don't know if that's feasible. I don't know what it costs or anything like that, but I think if we took an hour or even a half hour for training after our normal meetings, maybe we can get more done.
Well, Del, my comment would be, I would like for somebody to do all the social media for me, but nobody's going to, so there's no choice but for me to be able to do it myself. That's kind of the conclusion that I've reached after not seeing droves of people running forward to do all my social media stuff. So that's kind of, we're going to have to do it. I mean, that's one of the plans that I'll talk about in the strategy brief, if and when. I will do it. Okay, next we have the fourth Vice Chair's report. Did you have anything for us today?
The only thing that I would report on is that I guess that even though I don't have a title here as far as fourth Vice Chair report, what I do is plan the programs, and so it looks like that our next program will be sometime in May, and it's been put on the table that we have a picnic get-together so that we can give it more social, and at that point then perhaps have some training done prior. I think it would be a good effort to do. I don't know that I'm any different than the rest of us. Well, maybe a lot different than the rest of us. My grandkids know more than I do on the computer use and the social networks. I have to ask them how to operate them. So I think it would be great for me to learn something. I'm sure there's others there also.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Treasurer, may we have your report, please?
I'm just going to go around during the interview.
Are we going to have an intermission?
We may have an intermission. Do you need an intermission?
Let's just have some more tickets.
Okay, we can take a break for 10 minutes. Sound good? Okay, you're taking a recess for 10 minutes.